Hey, I am so excited to do another Meet the Mentor with my new friend Trixie. Yes, that's her real name, and yes, she'll tell you how she got it. But before I do, Leap 2026 is going to be on fire. And we're going to be back at UCLA. It will be July 12th to the 18th. I can't even believe how excited I am about this year. We have so many great speakers lined up. I just got back from being on tour with my daughter, Anna Sky. She is killing it, opening for Jesse McCartney. Also, my daughter, Georgie, is killing it with her new clothing line called All My Love. And she comes to Leap every year and she gives all the students there an update on how to start a business, grow a business, and continue. And she's now in Nordstrom, a few other brick and mortar stores, and it's just super duper exciting. So please, please, please mark it on your calendar. Go to www.leapfoundation.com. We will have great speakers. You know, Paula Abdul comes every year. Hopefully Anthony Hopkins will be in town and he'll come back again. Lil Mosey wants to come back again. Amy Adams said if she's in town, she'll come back. It should be exciting. LEAP is an entrepreneurship program for high school and college students aged 15 to 25 that we have taught at UCLA for the last 16 years. What do we teach? We teach students skills to be successful in life. And the coolest thing about LEAP is that I've asked so many of my celebrity patients and business leaders to come and help, and they do. We've had Mark Wahlberg, Paula Abdul, Michael Strahan, Kathy Bates, Anthony Hopkins, Apollo Ono, Eric Garcetti, Jason Alexander. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And these people come and share the secrets of their success with our LEAP students. Typically, we get about 500 to 550 students every summer, and we literally pack them with so much information. It's like drinking from a fire hose. And one of the parts that the students love most is when we bring in these mentors. So we started this Meet the Mentor series because we didn't want this to just be a one and done week. We wanted to do it throughout the year and continue to give these students great information from great mentors to teach them how to do businesses in every field you could ever imagine. For today, I'd like to introduce you to a new friend of mine. Her name is Trixy Castro. She is a powerhouse entrepreneur and investor who turned vision and perseverance into a legacy of impact. A first-generation American who started with nothing but a phone and a desk. Trixy built Genesis Capital, which was a private money lender, and Hudson and Marshall, which was an online auction for real estate company, from the ground up, later selling both to Goldman Sachs and Fidelity National Title within just 9 months of each other. Her story is proof that wherever you start doesn't mean or define where you're going to end. Today, Trixy leads multiple venture focus groups on real estate, lending, and sustainable development, all driven by a mission to make opportunity accessible to everyone. She recently launched Success Unlocked, an educational platform designed to help people strengthen their mindset, build financial confidence, and unlock their full potential. Through her work, Trixy reminds young people that success isn't about where you come from. It's about consistency, courage, and believing in yourself when no one else does. Trixy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here.
And we met at a really cool event that you did. It's basically to help provide free rent for families who need it. Why don't you talk about that for a little bit before we talk about you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's free rent. It's incredible. It started, a father and son team started it out of Georgia. And so what we do is we provide up to a year free rent and wraparound services for families in need. So anything from financial literacy, credit repair, job placement, health services, you name it, so that a family can get back on their feet. And we've had incredible success stories. And so the event that you and I met at was us bringing it to LA. So the goal is to take it nationally, and we had a great turnout, almost 400 people. and had the great opportunity to meet you there.
It was amazing. And the father and son team their name was?
They were there, Larry and Daniel Dorfman.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
So here I go to this event, and the guy's name is Larry Dorfman.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, we're not even related.
Yeah, you're like, or are we?
But I love his heart.
Yeah.
So,
Really cool.
that was super exciting. So you grew up with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Yep, that's exactly what it was.
And life was always easy. And, you were handed kind of everything on a silver platter, right?
Yep, it's the exact opposite.
So tell us about it.
Okay, so my parents came here in, like every immigrant, in search of a better life. And I learned so much from them and continue to learn so much.
Where did they come from?
Cuba.
Okay, so you have these two Cuban people here. Your mom is pregnant, and they have to come up with an American name.
Yep.
How did they, in the world, come up with Trixie?
So we would tease my dad about this all the time, but long and short, my mom says, I had a dream that I'm going to have a boy. So his name is going to be Eli. So that's what my name would have been. And wouldn't you know it, I'm a girl. So my mom in the delivery room loses her marbles and says, you did this to me, you go figure out a name. So he naturally goes and asks the nurses, what should I name her? And they gave him a name book, and he was reading what it means, what the names mean in Latin. So he chose it because he liked what it meant in Latin.
What does it mean in Latin?
It means she who blesses. And I remember asking him, Dad, why did you name me that? Like, Trix are for kids, or is a cereal, and why couldn't you have named me like a normal name? And he would say to me, Trixie, you make a name. You make the name. And I was like, you know what? That resonates with me. I get it. And so it's stuck, and I owned it and was proud of it. But yeah, I heard it all from like the speed racers, the honeymooners, and I thought, you know what? I'll always go back to what my dad said, you make the name.
But you know what? It turns out that it was the perfect name for you, right?
It had
because
its
the
moments.
Latin translation is exactly how you're living your life.
I hope to. That's the goal. But yeah, no, they came to this country, and my mom wanted a better opportunity. And I'll never forget, I was 3 years old and the babysitter didn't show up. And so she had to take me with her to this job interview. And she, tells me, you can't talk, do not pass go, do not collect $200, just be quiet and be there. So, okay, as long as I can wear a party dress. So I go, and it's the most beautiful house I had ever seen. It had this giant yard, and it was the largest house I'd ever seen. And my mom is in this, in this interview, and she's nervous, and she's doing this. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I really want my mom to get this job, because then I get to be here. Long and short, I jump in and I explain to them that they should hire my mom at 3 years old. And the next week we move in. Complete strangers. Turns out they were an Italian immigrant family also. And they had come to this country with like $8 in their pocket. And he had created a bank and then invested in real estate. That small exposure, because he passed when I was 6, but us living in their guest house for all of those years and being exposed and being able to see what was possible and to think, oh my gosh, if they did it, what did they do and how do I go do that? And so that was a really big turning point for me as a child, just growing up and seeing that it was possible, right? And that I wasn't getting stuck in that. We were there to help, right? We were there to serve them, if you will. And that mentality of, how can I take what I learned of helping and being helpful and serving in many ways and apply that to business kind of resonated. But that's where my passion for housing came, because I wanted to, create housing and regional jobs for people. And, then they passed when I was 14. So we moved and, new school, new everything. So I went out and I tried out for soccer and cheer. And wouldn't you know it, I made both teams. And I was super excited, except for you had to come up with $1,000 or something, maybe a little bit more for each sport. And I thought, oh my God, $2,000, that's like winning the lottery. There was zero chance that was going to happen. I didn't want to stress out my parents. So I thought, okay, I really still want to go do these things. So let me figure it out. And this was my first business. It was called Trixie's Tutor Time, because I went across the street. That neighbor had a computer with the old school printer paper with the bubbles, if you remember. Right. So with magic markers, I wrote business cards and went across the street where my younger sisters went to an elementary school and explained to the principal, asked him I explained what I was doing. I asked him if he could introduce me to the teachers. I defined my sweet spot as I'd like to meet the second and third grade teachers. And within 30 days, I was making more money than both my parents combined.
That's crazy.
And that's where I knew, like, where
crazy.
there's a will, there's a way. You can make it happen.
So many parts of that story resonate with what we teach at Leap, copy genius. I mean, I always tell kids, students will say, Doc, I want to do this business. Blah, blah. What should I do first? I said, here's what you do first. And this is what I did. When I came out of dental school, I did a residency. I came back to LA and I wanted to go into cosmetic dentistry. What did I know about cosmetic dentistry? Like Zippo, right? So I researched, I found the 5 most successful cosmetic dentists in Beverly Hills. I called all 5 of them. I said, can I come shadow you?
Wow.
And I spent a week in each of their offices just writing copious notes. And all of them said, you're really different than other students that have shadowed. I go, what do you mean? They said, well, most students will just come in and watch me drill teeth and leave. That's not what I did. I got in 10 minutes early. I watched how they greeted the patients. I watched all the forms the patient filled out. I watched how they brought the patient into the treatment room. I watched how the dentist diagnosed the treatment. I watched how they priced out the treatment. I watched how the financial advisor told the patient about the treatment, and then how they collected money. And so after going to these 5 offices, I pretty much knew all the basics for what I needed to know that they didn't teach me in dental school. In dental school, they taught me how to drill teeth, And so that's one of the things we love about Leap is, and having somebody like you come to Leap as a mentor will be such a great blessing for these kids because they'll get to learn so much. So your first business was really motivated by raising this $2,000 so you could be a soccer player and a cheerleader.
Yep.
And I'm sure you killed both, right? Then you went to college where?
I went at Northridge, Cal State Northridge.
Oh, and I grew up in Northridge.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yeah.
So I grew up here.
Hills.
I grew up here in the Valley.
And then after that, your first business that you started was which one?
So while I was in school, I walked into a Wells Fargo branch and asked them for a job, and they hired me as a teller. And what I learned as a teller is I was not good at it, which is quite an accomplishment considering it's pretty simple. It's like deposit, cash, or check, or withdrawal. And the reason I wasn't good at it is because I wanted to talk to all the depositors to understand how they made their money.
Right.
And so I quickly identified that at that time, there were 3 main categories. It was real estate, right? It was these real estate groups going out and buying distressed real estate, fixing them up and selling them. Today we have all the reality shows, so we all know more or less what that is. Back then it wasn't. There were the tech companies, which was still new, and then there were the gamblers. So I thought, okay, let me look into this real estate thing. I had seen as a child that it was possible, right? I had seen, or at least that's what I had been told as to how that family had made a lion's share of their money. So that's what I pursued. And like you, I set out to really understand their model, right? They're showing you the playbook. They're showing you, hey, this is what we're doing. We're going and we're standing at those days at the courthouse steps. We're buying, these properties. We're fixing them up and we're selling them and doing all the things. And I realized, but there isn't anyone providing them leverage on an ongoing scalable basis, what I'd seen at Wells Fargo. There isn't a bank institution that does this on a regular basis. It's very fragmented in this space. It's very niche-y. Let me go figure that out. And so that's what I did. And I started a company called Genesis Capital with a phone and a desk and myself. And day one realized, oh my God, my personality is not one to sit at home or in an office by myself. Mind you, I had asked my mom for this desk that we had in the garage. So I had this ratty old desk that would give me splinters. I had to get robbed by a homeless guy every Friday. So my brother would have to come walk me to my car. And I thought, okay, it's time to build a team. So my first employee was a 14-year-old girl working for a prom dress. I'm like, wait, what? How old are you? Who's this boy? What's happening? Why are you going to the prom? And then we hired her best friend and my nephew, who I paid in gas money. So total child labor. And that is the company that I ended up selling to Goldman Sachs years later. So it
Crazy.
goes to show that where there was, zero kind of, it wasn't teed up that way. It wasn't supposed to be me beating the odds. It wasn't supposed to be me putting together something that institutional groups would want to buy.
So when you sold that company, how many employees did you have at the time of sale?
Oh, well, I ended up selling 2 companies,
right.
actually.
The second one was the auction company.
Yeah.
But
So
that
one,
company,
over 100 employees.
Over 100 employees. Now, I don't know about you, and I'll ask you in a second. When we started Discus Dental, which became the largest tooth whitening company in the world, I was very comfortable practicing dentistry, not so comfortable on the business aspect of how the company ran. And we would sit in board meetings and I really felt deficient. I felt like I'm not really giving the kind of input an owner in a company should give. So I went back to school and I took classes at night at UCLA Extension. This was very popular with my marriage. I woke up at 5 in the morning. I went to the gym every day because I promised to be home for dinner. Then I would work an 8-hour day. Then I would come home for an hour and a half and have dinner. And then I would leave again and go to UCLA. This was a real marriage builder. But I knew I needed to do it. And people would say, gosh, you're a workaholic. I'm like, by necessity, So as you're building this company and hiring 100 employees and stuff, where were you learning how to do all the things you needed to do to run this company?
I learned by doing it, this.
Yeah, right.
And I learned really quickly that I had to go be the best at it. So if I was doing a real estate deals, for example, I needed to know every aspect of the deal, from processing it, underwriting it, driving it, all the things I had to understand.
Mentors, any?
No.
You did it all on your own.
It was just a school of hard knocks. We built a great team, right? It wasn't just the kids. We built a great team. What I found in what you're saying that was my life every day. It was, Trixie, you don't fit the role on paper. You have zero background in capital markets. Your name is Trixie. Let's just start there. You've never raised money before, right? Like, why are you here? What makes you think you can do it? And I really quickly learned you have to go be the best. I had to learn it better and be better than everyone so that we could speak the universal language of making money. And once you were making people money, all of a sudden it was a different story. So yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
What's funny? Your story is really, really common with a lot of very successful business women. Men will lean on other men a lot more. A lot of very successful business women actually did it all on their own. Like, they didn't reach out, and it's really funny. Nima Barnett has been my friend and patient for 25 years. We just went to the DGA, the Directors Guild, and they gave her a lifetime award. She's the first African-American director, female director, who directed a primetime TV sitcom, The Cosby Show, and many others. And they did a whole tribute to her. And at the end, they had a newscaster come in, actually interview her. And the very last question, I'll never forget, they said, Nima, if you could wave a magic wand and change anything in the entertainment world today, what would it be? She said, I would love to see successful women in entertainment help other women in entertainment the way men do. And I thought, geez, that's so true, And I get it. Like, you probably didn't feel like you had a mentor or anybody you could turn to.
Well, and a lot of times when you're doing things, you're pioneering it, there isn't really anyone in that space. And I was so green in business and so new that it was trying to figure out, first of all, how do you find high net worths? I told you where I come from, right? And so I didn't have exposure to people that had money or that were seasoned in real estate. So it was go find those people.
It's one word. Tenacity,
exactly. Right? And really thinking, okay, how do I take what I do know well and how do I apply that in all of these areas? And then learning as you grow the business to hire up and not be intimidated by that. But it was so common that I was questioned as to why I was in the room or what made me think I could be there anyways, that I learned an incredible superpower, and that was to like let it in one ear and out the other. Unless it was something that I could really say, okay, I'm going to learn from this. There's a lot of value in here. I started to develop a little bit of thicker skin of like, okay, they're not paying my bills. I'm finding a way to go do this. So let me take what I need to understand and learn. And I will say there's many people along the way that were very helpful to me and very kind. And I think that wanted to see me and champion me and wanted to see me succeed. And I was grateful for that. So I would gravitate towards that. But was there like mentoring groups like there are today and all of these resources? No. So I vowed to myself to go become that. I actually filmed on this last month. I went to New York, and you know, in the Bull in the financial district, there was a little girl that used to be in front of the Bull. Now they've moved her in front of the New York Stock Exchange. And going back there and just seeing her brought back like a flood of emotions for me. I remember the first time going to New York, I'd never been, and seeing that little girl and thinking, oh my God, like she's the fearless warrior, right? Like that is going to be me for other girls, for other women, because it was, how dare you show up here in pink, right? And you have big hair and I just didn't look the part. Fine. Like, I get it. I'm not you. I'm never going to be you, whoever the you was across the table. And that's okay. So it was kind of this torch of like, for anyone that feels different or has been told that they don't belong, like I want to be that person that you can say, hey, wait a second, if she can do it, I can do it too.
You know what I love about you? We share the same mantra, which is learn so you can earn and then return.
Yeah, so true.
And, you know, that's the thing. Like, I didn't have anybody helping me, showing me. Like, I just kind of figured it out. I was really fortunate when I got older. In my 40s, I joined an organization called YPO, the Young Presidents Organization, and then I was in a forum, and I teach that at LEAP, is how to network and be in a forum kind of group and support each other. But it was a long and lonely road getting there. And so you had this one successful company going, and as if that isn't enough, now you start this auction company in real estate.
So the lending company wasn't really successful yet. It was like the little engine that could, right? But I knew it was going to be. And I knew that I could sell and I could bring in the volume. So then I had to backfill and raise the money. Huge challenge, but it was doable. Then I started the online auction company because I would go to my clients on the lending company and I'd say, hey, what are you challenged with? What are you struggling with? Where are your hurdles? And they would tell me basically what they were struggling with. So at the time, the big struggle was, hey, we need more inventory. We need more houses to buy, right? And that became a me problem because if they didn't have houses to buy, I had nothing to lend on. And so I thought, how do I solve for that? So I learned such valuable lessons. I learned that when there is a problem, making the assumption that others have that issue too and solving it for yourself, but also for others, there's a business, right? There's a revenue source. Right. And so I started that online company on a giant Post-it note. So it goes to show you don't need resources. You don't need all of these things that the world sells you on. Giant Post-it notes that I probably still have somewhere with magic markers. And we ended up being one of the largest in the country in that space. So ended up, really scaling that and running both companies at the same time and learning so much about myself and business and learning that as humans, we have blind spots and how do you solve for that? And really, I would say the biggest mentorship opportunity was when Oak Tree Capital, right out of downtown here, took an interest in my company and the lending one. I looked at that like I'd won the lottery, and I realized that they knew a lot that I didn't. So how could I make this experience with them my MBA? Because I was putting my team through the MBA program, awesome. But I didn't have the time and the bandwidth. And you mentioned YPO. I remember being invited to YPO, but it was like $10,000 or something. I didn't have it at the time. And thinking like, I'm going to go figure that out, right? I have to go put myself in a position where I can invest in myself. And that was a big part of it. Like, how do you learn and how do you teach yourself and how do you get resources and put yourself in the different networks and stuff? But it was just seeing every opportunity and every challenge. What is the opportunity in it?
What year was it that you sold both companies?
End of 2017 and early 2018.
And since then?
So then you get what's called a non-compete, right? So now you're not allowed to be in that space, and you agree to it for X amount of years.
Usually, what, 5 to 7?
Yeah, it depends on what you negotiate. But I was locked out of both, right? So you have finance and real estate, like the two things I knew how to do in life. And so how do you take a bunch of smart people, because I'd carved out some of my team, and still work together, right? And now they don't have to all necessarily work as hard in theory because they took some chips off the table, and yet everyone works even harder because we love what we do. It's very mission based. So we got involved in all sorts, from investing in other entrepreneurs to taking companies and scaling them and helping them monetize, to always real estate related things, right? That's like my thing. To being involved in, sustainable housing and creating better ways to build housing for people, that it's 95% less lumber, making things green, to how do we minimize costs for every entrepreneur out there, which is a cost savings company, to I'll always be a lender. I entered the market again once my non-compete was over, to all the different spokes in the wheel that I've just always seen needed improvement while being in the industry, or something that I could add value, or something where I looked at it from the different lens of the buyer or the borrower in that case. What did they need? So I put myself in that shoes. How do I become the developer? What's the experience like? How can I improve it? How can I make it bigger, better, faster to turn that into more revenue?
What would you say? I mean, I get the trial and error thing, but if you had to really sit down and narrow down, like, what was it that was really kind of teaching you besides that? And the fact that you didn't have a mentor, were there any like books or online courses or classes or anything like that? Or was it just purely being in there every day, just hammering it out?
So I created my own version of school. And so what I mean by that is, take real estate, for example. There were classes that you can take, but I went out in the field and learned from the pros. So I'd find the best appraiser. I'd shadow them. So
that's kind of like having a mentor.
Yeah, exactly. Go out and find the best title person, right? The best title company, the best every single piece that would touch a deal. And I would spend a lot of time with developers and the builders and the different groups and understand their models. So I would say that the best way to describe it is I learned on the job from the pros. So even if I couldn't lend them money or couldn't sell them something, I was still there learning and being a part of it.
And we kind of touched on it a little bit, but if you had to tell students watching this kind of your secret for success, what would that be?
Oh, I would say align yourself with the best and invest in yourself with every single piece of education that you can, with every single online course, anything that you can grow from, because you are the business, right? You are that. So invest in yourself first and try and educate yourself, but keeping in mind that everything that people are going to tell you, you have to use your little spidey sense as a filter, right? So you're going to take what you want to learn from it, but also keep in mind that they usually have an agenda as well. So it's okay to not absorb it and let it get you down, right? So that mindset is really important, to take that mindset and couple it with growing and educating yourself. Those would be the two things.
That's awesome. And if students want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do it?
They can follow me on social media. It's TRIXYCASTRO. That's my handle.
We'll put it in the notes.
Yep. And that's usually the best way, or shoot me a note and get right back to them.
I would love to have you come to LEAP as a mentor. And also we do a segment of the program called Women Who Lead. And if you would honor us by preparing a 10, 15, 30-minute presentation on that, that would be awesome.
It'd be so much fun. I would love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And one thing I'm going to tell you to do, bring your little boys.
Oh, yes.
Because I'll tell you something. From the time my kids were 2 and 3 years old, every time I spoke in an area that wasn't like thousands of miles away, I made my wife bring my kids and have them watch their dad.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. I made a point of attending every single important event in my kids' lives, from their ballet to their plays to their everything. But there were times when I absolutely couldn't do it because I had made a commitment a year in advance. You know how it is as a speaker.
Yep.
And I wanted my kids to know that their dad was a little different than other dads. And if there was something that conflicted, I had an obligation to do it. And I wanted them to understand what it was I was doing. So it wasn't like this big mystery. And your little boys are going to grow up knowing my mommy's different than their mommy, you know? And I think that they'll gain a real appreciation for you and what you do and understand it better. And, you know, the earlier you expose it to it, I think the better.
I adopt that philosophy as well. They were at the event. They were there.
I know, you told me
so
that.
I agree with you. It's so important to involve them and have them see, because we're all trying to change and improve the world.
And that's the other thing, you lead by example.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing dumber than seeing a father standing there smoking a cigarette saying, don't ever smoke.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. They do as they see. That's true.
Yeah. It doesn't matter what you say. It matters what you do.
Exactly.
Well, Trixy, thank you from the bottom of my heart. This was great. And I look forward to a very long and prosperous friendship with you on many levels. So,
Likewise. Thank you for having me.
all right, Dr. Bill, over and out.